Hey guys, I've been requested to do some new beekeeper videos. I have a number of people that are getting into bees for the first time this year and getting their bees from me, and they wanted to see some new beekeeper stuff. So I'm gonna set up a series doing that. I don't plug the channel very often, but doing these educational videos is a lot of work. Getting all the information together and in the right order, trying to make it fast and efficient, getting all the equipment together that I want to show, so that I can make it all come together and make sense. So likes and subscribes help. If you want to catch all of them that are coming, you'll need to subscribe to the channel. There's also a notification bell for those that are new to YouTube that you have to go to select all videos, so that the notifications will come out to you when I put them out. I had to learn that lesson. The other thing is, I don't know who watches the videos. This isn't like Facebook, where if you click the like button, I can tell who likes it. It gives you a name on Facebook of who clicked the like button, the thumbs up button. It doesn't do that on YouTube. So if you don't leave a comment, I don't know who saw it. So for the amount of work that goes into these, I'd like to at least know it's helping some of the new beekeepers. I know a lot of my subscribers that watch me have been doing it as long or longer than I have, and don't need new beekeeper stuff. So I'm not going to expect a lot of them to sit through a 20-minute video. So if it's helping new beekeepers, it'd be nice to know. I have shot this video once and lost the footage. I've shot the front of it twice and the camera's froze up. So I'm going to be pausing as I go through here to check and make sure that it's shooting, and check batteries and see if we can get this thing finally done and put together. So the first video is going to be about equipment, because that's where we keep our bees. And beekeeping becomes an equipment business. You either have too much equipment and you're trying to figure out where to store it, or you don't have enough equipment and you're trying to figure out where to get it or how to build it. That can happen very, very quickly. So example, you go out in the morning, 6 o'clock, get bacon out of the freezer in the garage, there's bee boxes in the way, you got to move them. Why do I have these things? I'm not going to need them this year, they're just in my way. 2 o'clock that afternoon, you get a call from the neighbor. The bees that live in his barn have swarmed and they're hanging in the tree. So you run over to get them. You get there and you realize there's another swarm hanging on the fence post. Well, guess what? You're out of equipment. Not only are you out of boxes, but you're making a makeshift bottom board with a piece of plywood and some kindling strips to hold it up. You've got some old piece of tin on top of them for a top board with a brick on it to hold it down, and it's all balanced on a 5-gallon bucket because you don't have a hive stand. So it can happen that quick that you can run out of equipment, and it can happen that quick that you got a garage full of equipment that's in your way too. So just be aware of that, and that equipment is important. I want to go through some definitions of a few things that'll be mentioned in my talk. The terminologies you're going to learn as a new beekeeper are new. There's different terms in here, and there's terms that you may know the word, but it's used differently. It's important that you learn those. It's hard to talk to a beekeeper that's been doing it for a while and ask questions and get help if you can't explain to him in the right terminology what you're talking about. So try to use them when you can. If you hear a word that you're not sure what it is on my video or anyone else's, ask them. People are putting this energy and time into putting these out because they want to help. So most anybody will answer questions about what is this? I'm a new beekeeper, I don't know. So find out what they are, and then try to use the terminologies, even though they seem very bizarre and foreign when you first start with some of them. So the list of things I have for definitions here are flow. Flow is a nectar flow. It's when there's a substantial flower bloom, usually of one flower, that the bees are bringing in massive amounts of nectar from that one flower source. When there's not a flow going on, there's usually other flowers out there, other floral sources that they will get nectar from. But when you have one major flow, like here it's blackberries. When the blackberries bloom, there's 3 weeks for the bees to bring in the majority of the nectar they're going to bring in for the year off of blackberries. That's a flow. So the next term I want to go over is robbing. Robbing is going to occur after the flow. As soon as all those bees don't have anything to go get anymore to take home, they're going to try to steal it. So if they can go into a weaker colony and steal nectar that the other colony brought in and put it in their pantry, they're going to do it. Pollen. We all know what pollen is. To the bee colony, pollen is their protein source. It's what they feed the brood to keep them alive. Propolis is tree sap that the bees bring in and process to use for sealing things. They put it in small cracks, seal the boxes up. They will entomb, say, an entire mouse that dies, because he's too big for them to drag out, so they'll just entomb him in propolis, and it's a coating of sap that they've added things to. Bee space. Bee space is between 3/8 and 1/4 of an inch. It's the area a bee moves through. If it's smaller, a space is smaller than 1/4 of an inch, they will put propolis in it and seal it up. If it's larger than 3/8 of an inch, they will put comb in it, so they can store things there. Foundation is what we put inside of a frame in the box that tells the bees what size we want them to draw the comb and helps them keep it in a straight line so they don't build everywhere in the box. Comb is what they build on the foundation. That's the small holes of wax that they store pollen, nectar, and turn it into honey, and they raise their brood in those. And a hive stand is just about anything that holds the hive up off the ground so you don't have to bend over to access it, and it makes it a little harder for the raccoons and skunks and possums and mice to get into it. So those are the definitions I wanted to go over that you'll hear me use those terms in this talk. So I'm going to shut it off and get things arranged and start the next section. All right, the equipment that we're going to talk about mostly today is Langstroth equipment. Langstroth is a man who's attributed to designing this system we use, that has frames that go in the box that you can pull out and inspect. They started that when they had disease issues showing up in bees and they needed to get in and look at them and try to help them. So this is Langstroth equipment. It's what I recommend you start in. You can put bees in anything. They'll live in an oil barrel. But Langstroth equipment is available. It's easy to find in the used form. It's easy to get rid of if you decide to get out of beekeeping. A lot of other oddball things can be tougher. So that's why I recommend you learn to keep bees in standard Langstroth equipment first, and then you can put them in whatever you want to once you're successful. So there's different sizes in the Langstroth equipment, and the sizes go each direction. So this is a 10 frame box. You can also get an 8 frame box. That means it will hold 10 or 8 of these frames inside of it. You can also do a 5 frame box. It's considered a nuke. And you can have any size you want of frames, but those are your standard. You can build a long Langstroth which holds 30 frames. It's a horizontal hive. They don't go vertical. With these boxes, we can stack boxes on top of each other. So you've got the width definition by frames, and then you've got height definitions or differences. So this box right here is 9 5/8 inches tall. It's called a deep. This one is 6 5/8 inches tall. It is a medium. There is also a 5 5/8 inch tall box that is a shallow. Deeps are typically the brood chamber, but can be used for anything. Mediums and the shallows are called supers or honey supers, because it's very common for people to run their brood nest in their deeps and then use the mediums just for honey. And there's other people that decide they don't want to do multiple sizes, they want them all deep. With everything, there's a catch. A deep full of honey can weigh 110 pounds. That's a lot. So there's people that decide, well, they're just going to run mediums because bees will raise brood in a medium just fine. The problem can be it's hard to buy a nuke in a medium. Nukes are built mostly on deep frames. So again, if you do the deep for your brood box, it's not ever going to be full of honey, and if it is full of honey, you're not taking it away very often. They're going to stay and live in it, and then you use your smaller boxes for honey collection. Then we add the boxes going up to give them more space. So I'll get this thing set up here and I'll do a few things on the bench. So once the brood nest is getting full and they're getting ready for their flow, you put this box on top of it and they move up in there and put the honey up here. I run 2 deep boxes, so they have brood in both boxes and they put honey in them. The honey they leave in the top deep box stays with them. Anything they put up in the mediums or shallows on top is what I will take. All right. Once you've got your boxes together, you're going to need a bottom board. That's what this is. A piece of plywood with a rim around it. Piece goes on top, and here you have space for the bees to go in and out. So this is their entrance on the bottom, all the way across that. Now, when the flow ends and the robbing starts, you're going to want to put an entrance reducer in here, and you can use almost anything. There are sticks that are built to slide in there and shut it down. You can put duct tape on it and close it down. But if they've only got a space that big to defend, it's a whole lot easier for a smaller colony to defend what's in their box than if this was all wide open and bees can just swarm it and move in. All right, let me look at my notes, make sure I don't get lost here. All right, on top of the box is going to be your lid. There are different styles of lids. You know, we get you balanced, then I'll get some. So I run a migratory cover because my bees move. I put them on trucks, I load them on semis. So this migratory cover fits flush on the side, nothing hangs down. That's so I can stack boxes right next to each other and I can load them on a truck without space in between them. Things stay good and tight. When I get ready to remove the lid, I come in with the hive tool, put it in here because it's stuck with propolis, and you pry it up and off it comes. Now, a lot of homeowners, people that have colonies in their backyard that don't move, will run a telescopic cover. Telescopic cover is going to stick down on both sides and the front. So it seals the top better. You can't get water in it as bad. Bees can't try to get in there if the box starts getting soft. With the telescopic cover, you need to have something on top. There's a part called an inner cover, which I don't have any of because I don't run those. And the idea with it is the bees will stick their frames and their propolis to the inner cover and not to your lid. Because with the lid hanging over, you can't get your hive tool in like I do to pry it loose. So now you take your lid off and then you pry loose the inner cover to get in. You can use plastic, Reflectex, anything else up there, but you need something to keep them from sticking your lid to the frames in the box. All right, inside the box are frames. So the frame has a top bar, sides, and a bottom bar. These frames and the box are designed for bee space. So when two frames go together like this, the space in between them is 3/8, it's a 1/4 inch to 3/8, right? That's bee space. So they can move through there. The space between these bars, again, is the same. They're tight up here on top, and they will put propolis in this, but if they are tight all the way to the bottom, and they fill that whole thing with propolis, it is hard to get that out of there. It gets really stuck. So when the frame is in the box, you'll also see there's bee space beside it on both sides. If that was bigger than that, they would put comb in there, and now it's going to be stuck. If it was smaller than that, they would put propolis in it, and it's going to be stuck. So we'll give this another shot this morning. This is the 4th time I've shot this segment. I had trouble with SD cards and all kinds of stuff yesterday. So I believe we broke off at talking about the bee space in the box. It's really important to respect that bee space. If you build your own equipment, stick it in here. Just be sure you're respecting that bee space, or you'll have a lot of trouble in your box. All right, the segment we missed was on foundation. So this is plastic foundation. It has little raised areas on it that tell the bees what size to draw the comb. If they draw it on their own, they'll draw it bigger a lot of times for drone comb, which is fine. You need some, but you don't want it all. So these just snap into the frame. You put a strip of wood across the front here and tack it in. These need to be waxed. They won't draw on clean plastic, so you can buy them unwaxed, single dip, double dip, triple dip. I buy them single and then wax them again myself. I buy them single dip in case I don't have time to wax and I have to throw one in quick. They'll be covered, but I usually don't have that problem. So the other is wax foundation. So you can buy a sheet of wax, has imprinted sizes on it so they'll draw. It slides in the same way. If you do wax foundation, you'll need to have wires in your frame. They help support it. The bees will draw right across it and the wire will be in there. If you pick that full frame up in the summertime and it has honey in it and the wax is warm and you don't have any support, it will just fall on the ground. And if you extract it, take the honey out of it in an extractor, it will break if you don't have some wires in it. And you can use metal wire, fish line. It needs to be a pretty good size fish line, but because they'll chew it out if it's thin. So here's a piece of plastic foundation that they have drawn out. This one's in to be repaired. I'm going to clean it up and re-wax it. But you can see here where they've drawn consistent size holes all across that piece. But on the other side, where there were some issues, they drew wonky comb. This has big cells in it. This is drone cells. They won't repair this and turn it into good cells. So when you see them doing this, tear it off of there and make them redo it. because it won't get any better. So they'll do this if there's not enough wax on it. They'll do this sometimes even when there is enough wax, when they're in a hurry and they start drawing off the top, and they'll pull away from it and just do their own thing because they're bees. So that said, the other part, if you're starting as a new beekeeper and you have a bunch of these frames of foundation and you buy a nuke and stick it in there, this is not space. The bees do not have anywhere to do anything besides the 5 frames that came in that nuke. If those are really full, if it's jam full of brood in all stages, and she can't lay, and the other ones are jam full of food, they're going to start getting ready to swarm, even though you have 5 of these next to them and 10 in a box above them. It won't matter. So I like to build strong nukes with mostly cat brood, so as soon as that brood starts emerging, they have more bees, but they also have open space. But this is why drawn comb is so valuable to a new beekeeper, because you don't have any to start with and you can't make it. So you have to be really careful and not just stick these stuff in there and think, oh, they're just fine. They have space, because they can't store anything on that. They're ready to leave. So, all right, I think that completed this section. I'll try to get this all edited together finally and on the internet for you. Battery change. Hope I caught that in time. So inside your box you can also put a feeder. This is a frame feeder or division feeder. That's what I run. If I just kept my bees at home in my backyard, I would probably have a top feeder, but it just adds equipment for me to have to move from place to place and take care of. Sometimes I need them, sometimes I don't. So they would be a pain, or my boxes just have an inside feeder that stays in them all the time. There's a number of other things you can get. So this is a propolis trap. This would go on top of the colony under the lid, and they would fill these little spaces with propolis. So it's less than 1/4 of an inch. They'll shove propolis in that, and you can come through and scrape it off. Use it yourself, sell it. There's a value to propolis. This is a pollen trap. So this goes under the colony. The bees go in through this entrance, and then they have to come up through these screens in order to get into the colony. As they do that and they wiggle through, they drop the pollen off into a basket that you pull out the back, and you can take that in and dry that pollen and sell it. There's a value to it. It's health things in human. It really helps with some allergies and other stuff. So a couple other things you're going to need. It's a hive tool that allows you to pry into your box, move your frames around, lift them out. You're going to need a smoker and probably a bee jacket. I got this bee jacket at Blythewood Bee Supply for 40 bucks or something, 35 bucks, 40 bucks. Pretty darn cheap. It's not a high-end jacket, but if that's what you need to get started, it'll work. I used one all year last year. It finally started breaking holes in the screen, but pretty cheap for a jacket. You may want gloves. I very rarely use gloves. I like to be able to feel what I'm doing better, but I get propolis all over my hands and they look horrible. When I do need gloves, I'll use the disposable rubber gloves. The heavier duty ones work better. The lighter 5 mil seem to break and tear pretty easy, so I use the heavier ones. With leather gloves, you really can't feel what you're doing, but that may be something that you need to get started with. So Now that we've talked about what I think you should start raising bees in, we'll talk about some other hive systems. There are top bar hives, which is just an open cavity with just the top bar from the frames across it, and the bees draw the comb down. If you try to get honey from that, you have to ruin the comb to do it. They have to build it again. It takes a lot of energy for bees to build comb. So it's something to think about. Now you can build one really cheap and get into beekeeping quick. If you own one, somebody gave you one, you've already built one, put bees in it. Go ahead. It's just not as easy to keep them alive. You can't go in and add honey frames to it. You can't buy a nuke to put in it. You have to buy package bees. I did draw frames out for a guy one time and get bees on it that he was able to put in, but it was a lot of work to get it to happen. So there's War A hives, which is a smaller square box that you don't have any frames in. You add an empty box on the bottom, they keep drawing comb down into it. You cut a box off the top to take your honey. You can't get in them and inspect them. You can't help them if they got problems. You can't tell if they're going queenless. You can't tell if the queen's failing. You just pretty much leave the bees to do their own thing. I think they're kind of cool, and if you're successfully running 3 or 4 colonies in your backyard in Langstroth equipment, and you want to start a War A hive that you can support it from your other colonies, you can add a queen in if they go queenless. You can add bees to it if they die out. I think they're great. They're fine. Do what you want to. But I recommend starting with Langstroth and you know, learning to keep bees in that. So anyhow, that's my spiel on equipment. Hopefully this one got shot this time and I can get it online for you.